The United States educational system has this way of determining whether you are smart or unintelligent. A lot of the modern day curriculum that they present in front of kids, um, let's just be real, you don't really utilize that information when you're much older in life. I remember when I was much younger, in elementary school, I had a little bit of a hard time, with catching up with some of the other kids. My grades were not the greatest. And this continued on really throughout my whole time in school. I even have one of my kids, who struggles in school. He does the best that he can do. And my other two kids, they were struggling, but now they're doing much better. They are turning out to be phenomenal young men. And I would like to say myself, just because, I may not have been an AB honor roll student, nor did I get any type of awards or anything like that. I feel like I turned out pretty well in life. I think that the educational system is completely flawed. They just completely omit the fact that there are some people that are very, very creative and they excel in that behalf. But because they don't excel academically, they try to deem you as somebody who's challenged or just, special, etc. When that's not really the case at all. I came across a story that was very interesting about a man you probably have never heard of before, and records state that he was the most intelligent man that ever existed, and his name is William James Sidis. William James Sidis had an off the chart IQ, but he died a penniless office clerk. Let's read some of this here. It says William James Sidis spoke 25 languages and had an IQ of 100 points higher than Albert Einstein. Now, when we think of intelligence, we think of Einstein, right? But according to data, William here, his IQ was at least 100 points higher than Einstein's. Wow. But the smartest man in the world just wanted to live his life in seclusion. So here's a photo of him right here. I'm not exactly sure how old he was, but it says here, though he is known as the world's smartest person, William James Sidis died at 46. Wow, very, very young. 46 years old after spending decades as a recluse while working low level jobs. So, how does it make sense to be the smartest person alive but have a low level job? Like, you would think that the smartest person alive would have some sort of special, high advanced engineering, scientific type of position that would earn him millions upon billions of dollars. Well, that wasn't the case here with William. Believed to be the smartest person who ever lived, William James Sidis could read the New York Times when he was less than 2 years old. By the time he was 6, he could speak multiple languages. And by age 9, he was accepted to Harvard, though the university did not allow him to attend until he was 11. Wow, that is crazy. Harvard at 11? Man. But despite his supreme intelligence, William James Sidis struggled to fit in the world that did not understand him. This is the tragic story of how the smartest person in the world died, penniless and alone. On April the 1st, 1898, William James Sidis, the smartest person who ever lived, was born in Boston, Massachusetts. His parents, Ukrainian immigrants Boris and Sarah Sidis, were pretty intelligent themselves. Boris was a famed psychologist, while Sarah was a doctor. So he comes from a really, really good lineage. Father was a psychiatrist, mom, a doctor, both of them intelligent, very, very good genetics here. So here he is as a kid. It says from the start, William James said his parents adored their gifted son, spending untold money on books and maps to encourage his early age learning. But they had no idea how early their precious child would catch on. So I find it very interesting here that his parents invested It says untold amounts of money on books and maps. So listen, most people in this day and age do not like to read, cannot stand it whatsoever. And I won't sit here and claim to be a bookworm, but I'm a lot more in tune, I'd say, with reading than I've ever been in my entire life, because I understand that there is an abundance of knowledge and an abundance of information and wisdom within books. Some of the most intelligent and successful people in the world have a library somewhere in their home. And I know you've probably seen stories to where, you maybe you watched a movie and there may be a person that's really, really wealthy or really rich, and they have this one area where there's a fireplace and a big clock on the wall, and then they have all of these like different shelves of books and stuff. I believe that it's there to show people the work that they've put in to get in the position that they're in right now, and to start their child off at a young age by buying books and maps is amazing. I truly respect that. When William James Sidis was just 18 months old, he was able to read the New York Times. But by the time he was 6, he could speak multiple languages, including English, French, German, Russian, Hebrew, Turkish, and Armenian. That's crazy. Wow. By 6 years old. And if that wasn't impressive enough, William James Sidis also invented his own language as a child, though it is unclear if he could have ever used it as an adult. The ambitious youngster also wrote poetry, a novel, and even a constitution for the potential utopia. So here's a photo of William's father here, Boris. There it is right there. So let's go and continue to read. William James Sidis was accepted into Harvard University at the age of 9. However, the school would not allow him to attend the school until he was 11. While he was still a student in 1910, he lectured the Harvard Mathematical Club on the incredible complex topic of four-dimensional bodies. The lecture was nearly incomprehensible for most people, but for those who understood it, the lesson was a revelation. So here you have a whole child at the age of 11 giving a very complex lecture to adults about four-dimensional bodies. That's talk about a prodigy here. William James Sidis graduated from the legendary university in 1914. He was just 16 years old, which is the same age as most juniors in high school. Much speculation has been made over the years about William James Sidis's IQ. Any records of the IQ testing have been lost to time, so modern day historians are forced to estimate. For context, 100 is considered the average IQ score, while below 70 is often viewed as substandard. Anything above 130 is considered gifted or very advanced. Some historical IQs that have been reverse analyzed, including Albert Einstein with 160, Leonardo da Vinci with 180, and Isaac Newton with 190. As William James Sidis, the smartest person who ever lived, he had an estimate IQ of around 250 to 300 if accurate. This could give him the highest IQ in the world for anyone who ever lived. Anyone with a high IQ will be happy to tell you it's meaningless and nevertheless. So this scored so high that his IQ was the same amount as 3 average human beings combined. But despite his intelligence, he struggled to fit in with the world of people who didn't understand him. Could you imagine how frustrating it would be trying to find somebody on your level of intellect? Like how frustrating it would be to just have a conversation with someone, because I could imagine what is common to him is extremely advanced to the average person. And I don't know about you, when I am talking to somebody that's talking about something that I just can't comprehend or understand, I just kind of zone out. So I'm like, you got to like bring it down a couple of notches, because, most of us are not experts in engineering or psychology or mathematics. Like, talk to me like a regular person. But to William, he struggled with trying to fit in with everybody else because, once again, here you have the world's most smartest person ever recorded on paper who just could not hold a conversation with people, which, again, the article will go on to tell us that he really liked to spend a lot of time by himself. After William James Sidis graduated from Harvard at the age of 16, he told reporters, "I want to live the perfect life. The only way to live the perfect life is to live a life in seclusion. I've always hated crowds." For a short time period, he taught mathematics at Rice Institute in Houston, Texas, but he was all but driven out, partially due to the fact that he was younger than many of the students. So here is a adult photo of him here. William James Sidis briefly courted controversy when he was arrested at Boston May Day Socialist March in 1919. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison for rioting and assaulting a police officer, but he had actually done neither. That said, Sidis was determined to live in quiet and solitude after his brush with the law. He took on a series of menial jobs such as low-level accounting work, but whenever he was recognized or his colleagues learned who he would promptly quit. "The very sight of mathematical formulas makes me ill," he later complained. "All I want to do is run an adding machine, but they won't leave me alone." In 1937, William entered the spotlight for a final time when the New Yorker ran a patronizing article about him. He decided to sue for invasion of privacy and malicious libel, but the judge dismissed the case. Now, a classic in privacy law, the judge ruled that once a person is a public figure, they are always a public figure, such as the case for the smartest person in the world. After he lost the appeal, the once idolized this didn't live too much longer. On July 17th, 1944, Williams this died of a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 46. Found by his landlady, the smartest person in the world left this world a penniless, reclusive office clerk. Wow, man, this is like William Sidis, folks, recorded on paper as the smartest man in the world, passed away at 46 of cerebral hemorrhage. If you don't know, it's a stroke of the brain. And he wasn't wealthy, he wasn't rich, he had nothing to leave over. It's just crazy to me, that we have like an educational system that pushes and pushes and pushes for, our kids to just be so just attentive in school and to learn, 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 learn. And when you see a story like this, when somebody who advanced learning to the highest degree just didn't seem to get any fulfillment out of life because he was just so detached due to his intelligence, that pondering, like, because 46 is very young to pass away. And I'm just thinking about like the neurons and all of the different cells in this man's brain, like the capacity of the workload that was going on in his mind. Did that contribute to the hemorrhaging of his brain? Like, it's like giganticism. I cannot remember the man's name who was like deemed to be the tallest ever live. I think he was like 7'11" or 8 foot or something like that. Very, very, very tall person. And I don't even think he made it to the age of 25. I don't think, because the growth hormone in his body was just out of control, and he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then his heart just stopped at that point. So I'm thinking, like, to be overly intelligent is not really a good thing. I mean, to have an IQ of 250 to 300 sounds impressive, but what does that do to the brain physically? Because this man seemed miserable when he passed away. Very, very miserable, not fulfilled, not happy, didn't want anything to do with people, who wanted to live a life in seclusion and alone in solitude. Just didn't really finish his life off like we would imagine the world's most smartest person would. Real sad story. I will put a link in the description to this story so you can check it out for yourself. If you like this type of content, do me a big favor and subscribe to this channel. Like the video as well. Comment down below your thoughts on this story. I would love to hear what you have to say. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.